Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Client Spotlight series. I have an incredible story for you today. I have my client Lauren, who went through the Magnetize and Monetize Mastermind, and she's here to tell you what are the three amazing shifts that she made in order to lock in five-figure months as a vocal empowerment coach and just scale to groups without resistance, stop people pleasing with her prices, and just really elevate to a point where she's in high demand. So Lauren, please introduce yourself. It's so good to have you here so that everyone knows who you are and what you do.
Well, it's super great to be here, Juliana. Thanks for having me on.
Yes.
And I am Lauren Hayes, and I am a vocal empowerment coach. I help people connect more deeply with their sense of personal power so that they can express themselves with strength, authenticity, and joy. And I do all of this through the art of singing.
So freaking good. Okay. So what I love about this is that it's not a common niche. It's not like a business making niche, right? It's not like a let me help you make some money niche, which I just love these stories because so many people think five-figure months are only reserved for those who are selling business coaching. And I can't wait to get into the details so that everyone can really see the possibility in what is available when we make a couple of shifts. So let's just start by just getting people acquainted with where you were at before we started working together so that they understand your background and just what was going on in your business.
Okay. So I was charging rates that were fairly typical for most vocal coaches in my field. And I was marketing myself more as like a singing instructor and a vocal coach specifically because, there's a whole lot of people that want to learn how to sing.
Yeah. How much are those rates, by the way? How much were your rates before?
So before I joined Magnetize, I was at $100 an hour. Okay. And when I first started teaching, I was at $50 an hour, which is crazy, but that was like years and years ago. Yeah. But I had gotten myself up to about $100 an hour, and that felt like on the higher end of what vocal coaches typically charge.
Right.
But it was inconsistent, like people would cancel here and there, and it would just, my income months really fluctuated a lot. I would fluctuate a lot between I'd say anywhere between 4,000 and like 6,500 on a good month.
Okay.
And it was a lot of hours. I mean, I had a lot of private clients, which was great. I never had like slow times where I didn't have client demand. So I knew I was doing good work and doing quality work. But I was overworked and burnout. And it was exacerbated by the fact that I'm a mother to a 3-year-old and a soon-to-be mother to a new baby in October. And I just knew that something had to shift. Like my mindset around charging higher prices needed to shift. I needed to figure out how to scale my business in a way that was sustainable.
Right.
And I just had no clue how to do that. So that was where I was.
Okay, amazing. I love that. Thank you for the context. Okay, and so what inspired you to join? And then let's start by sharing one of the first shifts as soon as you joined Magnetize. Like, what was some of the first shift that you want to share with everyone?
Well, the first shift that happened for me was just, I didn't realize how much resistance I had built up around doing group courses because I was so convinced that that private work was the only way I could deliver the quality of work that I did, especially because, working with the voice is so intimate and there's a lot of people that carry like trauma and, all sorts of emotional baggage around the voice. And it was hard for me to envision what that could look like in a group context.
Right.
So clearing up those beliefs and just really getting solid in the fact that, oh yes, actually like me being me is what creates the intimacy and what creates the environment and the vibe for the healing work and the personal work. And it's less about like trying to cater to, being super duper hyper available for too many people.
Exactly. It's so good. And I think for everyone who's watching this, think about what is the resistance that you have to, when it comes to scaling into having your group, is it like, for me, I remember I was just so afraid that I wasn't going to be able to deliver results in a group container, and that like one-on-one was the best way to get results.
I
just
had that belief too.
truly thought that was just a fact. I'm like, it's obviously so much better in one-on-one. Obviously people get better results. And so these are the things that get in the way of us actually becoming more impactful and actually delivering in a group confidently, when we have these little thoughts. I had a client who was like, I'm just afraid that people are going to judge me. They're just going to judge me for the way that I'm going to coach others. Like, she felt this fear of being judged. Everybody has something. And so tell us a little bit about when you joined Magnetize. Did you have a group?
No. So I had
didn't?
never done group work
Wow.
before. And I did a small, like, kind of test beta launch with like a few of my current clients over the summer, just to do like a small group and like boost my own confidence, but also sort of like prove to some of my current clients, like, hey, like, this is going to be really fabulous.
Yeah.
And it ended up going just better than I could have possibly imagined. I mean, and we ended up doing some really potent healing, transformative work because they had a small like audience to kind of witness them in that growth and that transition, and to kind of like support them through it. And it was just beautiful. Like, there were tears and there were like heartfelt conversations, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
So good. So what would you say to somebody who's feeling afraid to go from one-on-one into a group? Like, what would be a thing that you want to share with them?
Just that I think a lot of people have, I mean, myself included, a lot of people have a lot of preconceived ideas around the safety of sharing things like this in a group setting, and being willing to be vulnerable in a group setting, and yes. I think that because of that resistance, there tends to be a lot of just assumptions that they're not going to get as much out of it.
Yeah.
And if you're already doing the work that's of that caliber as a coach in one-on-one, it's so much easier, like, than I anticipated, to transfer that same intimacy of connection and strength of connection in a group setting. Because, like I said before, like, I realized that I was the one that was creating the energy and creating the safety and creating that intimacy and container. And even with other people present, everybody was able to drop into my energy as long as I stayed in that.
So good. So good. And I'm curious, what was the experience like being coach inside of Magnetize and Monetize Mastermind? Did that give you confidence, or did that give you ideas for how you can facilitate your groups?
Yes, absolutely. I felt very not only supported in just like the mindset shifts that had to happen and the energetic shifts that had to happen to hold space for that, but I feel like all of the practical skills and strategies that you outline in your modules and the coaching that you give, I mean, it makes it like a no-brainer. It just made it so accessible and so easy. So yeah, it's been a really seamless transition thus far.
So good. Okay, so you went from one-on-one, and all of a sudden you were charging $100 an hour. All of a sudden, now you are hitting 5-figure months. What is happening? The people want to know. What was the second thing that you did? So you eliminated the resistance around groups and got coached on all of that. What was the second thing that you did?
I stopped trying to people please with my pricing.
Let's talk about this. Okay, what did you do? What was happening?
I did not realize to what extent I had been kind of capping myself, not only, just based on like the industry standard, right, for like what was acceptable for a vocal coach to charge, but also like I was operating under a lot of assumptions that if I charged more, I would chase away these other clients that I was already very attached to. And I didn't want to I didn't want to upset them by raising my prices or price them out of my work. And there was a part of me that felt like I was abandoning, like I could be seen as like abandoning them if I
Right.
raised my rates too high.
Oof, that is so. I feel like everyone who's watching this feels that on some level. Like we fear raising our prices because we're abandoning people. This is like the deeper thing underneath
Yes.
all of it. Keep going. So good. Oh, so juicy for everyone to hear that being reflected back because it's so true. We feel that way.
Well, and I think especially in any kind of, personal transformative kind of work, and like voice work is very vulnerable work. It can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And I think that in any sort of like healing profession, especially, and like where you're working with people and you're like helping people move through tough stuff, that there's a lot of like desire to please and a desire
Yeah.
to like to help and to be helpful.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much of my identity around being helpful I had actually tied into this,
Mm.
like my pricing,
Mm.
that like if I priced myself too high, I was no longer going to be helpful to the people in the way that I wanted to be helpful,
Yeah.
which was so limiting.
Yeah.
And I mean, it ended up with me just feeling like, okay, I was giving and giving and giving and
Right.
working and working and working,
Yeah.
but burning out quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember telling you, I'm like, there's no other way that we can have two babies and you can have space and we can have a family and we can have the whole thing. Like, there's no other way but to raise your prices. I mean, there's no other way. Otherwise, you're going to be burnt out and work to the ground. There's no other option. I mean, really, unless
Right.
you do want to be. And then I remember where you were like,
Right.
oh my God, okay, I guess this is the way, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was one of the like, I was just like a oof moment, where I was like, oh God, you're so right. Like, I need to sit with that.
I know. So, how much do you charge now, just for people to know what the contrast is?
Well, so I'm now for private sessions, I'm $250 an hour
Okay.
at minimum.
Yeah.
And then, for people that want to do like a private VIP container, it's a 3-month project for $6,000.
So you're charging $6,000 when you were
For
charging
VIP.
like for VIP
Yeah.
when you were charging like $100 an hour, and that was your only way to scale your business. There's no way to scale. So what I love about this is that you were willing to sure raise your rates, but really more than just the hourly thing is creating an environment, a package where people also get to access you, but at the right rate that is actually going to be supportive and an equal energy exchange, so that it feels like you can give all of you to your clients and really pour into them, and you're being resourced, which is so important for us people who are all about service, all about helping, all about supporting people. We care about our clients. We want to give them an amazing experience. We want them to feel fulfilled, happy, all of the things, because we have integrity. It sometimes gets in the way when we put ourselves at the expense of that. And actually, it's not helpful for anybody, because then we don't show up lit up. We won't last. Literally, we will not last. Coaching, we're gonna burn out in 6 months, in a year, mostly 2 years. You can maybe do low prices maybe for 2 years, but then it's gonna get to a point where you are so burned out. And so I just don't want to get myself to a 2 year mark. I don't want anyone to wait if they don't have to wait. You can choose to elevate your prices, and you can get coaching, raising your belief, and really having it land in your reality. So I love that you did that. Let's talk about the third thing that you did in order to create this amazing result of just having 5-figure months and people just pay you.
Well, so I had to, and this actually ties into the previous one that I just shared, is that I had to really shift I had a lot of like subconscious beliefs that I didn't realize I was carrying around like my clients needing me to like save them or help them. So like I was like subconsciously kind of like just disempowering them right out the gate and being like, oh, well, I'm making assumptions about, whether they can pay this or not, like if they're nobody wants to learn how to sing and pay thousands of dollars to do it, like there were all these, swirling assumptions that I had made about what price people would be willing to pay and like what the value of the work that I actually bring to people was. So I had to really ground in my value, and I also had to really ground in the belief that my clients and my potential clients were ready to receive what I had, and that they were willing to pay what I deserve
Yeah.
to be paid
Yeah. Yeah.
to achieve those results, you know, and
So
not just assume that it was out of the realm of possibility for them. So that was
right.
huge.
And let's talk a little bit about how that relates to the sales piece, because you became your like what was your relationship with sales calls, and what is your
Oh God,
relationship with sales?
they were
Let's talk about that.
non-existent.
Let's just for everybody, because I think a lot of people are like, I hate sales. Sales is the worst. I get, and then they come into Magnetize, and then they're like, oh, I love that. This feels so good. So like, I just want to hear your experience. What shifted for you in terms of the selling piece?
I just, I went from hating and avoiding sales calls like the plague because I always felt so like slimy and like, oh, I'm trying to convince people to work with me and like trying to be like, I think pushy is like what I was afraid of being.
Yeah.
And what I learned in your cohort, in the Magnetize and Monetize Mastermind, was just that there's ways to be persuasive and to be grounded and to be very much a stand for not only the value of what I offer, but also like being a stand for like the vision of who they could be if they worked with me. And being so rooted in that I've been able to turn so many no's into like very enthusiastic yeses.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And now I love them. Like I love getting on calls with people. I love like talking to people about what I'm doing. I love writing the copy and like unapologetically sharing it all over social media.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, that's different. Instead of being like bashful and like not wanting to like step on people's toes and not wanting to like, sell myself and be out of integrity.
Right.
So, yeah.
I just love
change.
that. I'm like, I love selling. I think sales is just the deepest, just one of the most beautiful things that we can do for people as a service, for them to step into their vision. And I think that I'm so committed to shifting the relationship that us coaches who are in integrity, who do great work in the world, have around sales, because it's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful portal of transformation. It's just that the way that sales are taught in the world don't apply to us. Like, doesn't feel good. But then when we have the right process, then sales just becomes a thing. Like, you live, you breathe, you brush your teeth, you brush your hair, you make sales, you make money. Like, this is just the way it goes, because that's just the natural flow, because it feels good, because we're coaching people into their, to see their vision, not convincing them to buy a thing. It's not even about the thing. It's about the vision. It's about the bigger purpose of what they are even on the phone with you for. Like, the person is on the phone with you for a reason. You guys collided out of all of the humans on the planet. Like, it's no coincidence that somebody is there with you. And so like they're already a yes. If they're on the phone with you, they're already a yes in some way, shape, or form to who they want to become. And so it's now us really stepping into like, okay, great, you want this? Awesome. Like, let's create the vision of what that is, and having the ways in which you can navigate all the ways in which a conversation can go in a very natural, loving, delicious, non-pushy, just like grounded, leaning back way, right?
Yep.
So good.
Yep.
So
and
good.
I mean, it really, that has been massive shift to like go from being like feeling, like I was being pushy or out of integrity, to feeling like, no, actually sales can be very divine and very loving and very supportive and very, it can be an opportunity to build relationship before somebody even enters in the container, so it's been very powerful. And now I have clients at my new rates and in my new containers who are like full body yeses.
Yes. Full body yeses. And it's like the same person, the same vision would have been available. It's just this different process to get there, right? Like with a process that doesn't feel good, that feels pushy, you lose and they lose, right? Like, you lose because you don't help the client, and they lose because they don't get to step into their vision. When you have the right process, then you win, they win, everyone wins, right? And so it's such a simple shift. Like, I really love that you shifted that relationship, and that you're now empowered to create money for your family and give your gifts to people, and like everybody is winning. It's just so beautiful. I literally get chills in my body just like just that is just so beautiful. And I'm so happy for you. This is so good. Okay, so I have a question for you. So what would you say that is something that you want to share with people that want to join Magnetize and Monetize Mastermind? What is something that surprised you about it? There are so many marketing, programs out there. This is a marketing mastermind, and you obviously have wrapped up the cohort. This is live post magnetize, right? Like you are now sustaining this. Like now you really got what you needed and like you're good. And so what would you say to people who are like, I'm not sure, or what does it feel like to be in there? Am I really gonna get what I need? Like, what would you say to them?
I had a lot of fears, certainly, around joining this cohort. Like, I was really excited, but I was also terrified because A, it's a big investment, and B, it was a group mastermind, and I had never done anything like that before either. Like, because of my beliefs around, private one-on-one coaching, I was nervous about entering into a group situation, a group coaching situation. But I received way more than I ever could have expected. I went in thinking, okay, I'm going to get some really great practical, like, marketing and business knowledge. Because, I was green. Like, I didn't really have any of that. It was all, like, referrals based, my whole business for, like, my entire life. So I knew I was going to get some practical knowledge and some skills and some strategies around, like, building my business and scaling. I did not realize the level of personal and energetic upgrades I was going to get in the container. Like, it was like life shifting, just complete mind boggling with even like the first 3 days. It was just like, oh, that's wild. There was a, $10,000 or $11,000 lesson, just like in one go.
It's so wild. It's good.
Crazy. It's a jet stream. Like, it's a lot of information, and it's all put together in such a way that feels accessible. It feels loving. It feels supportive. It feels just very easy to digest also, So and I had such a positive experience, and also just being in a room full of other people who are on the same pathway was huge.
What was that like?
It was so cool because I hadn't ever been in spaces like that before. Not really, where it was just a whole room full of other incredible coaches who were there to learn and there to, like, improve, but also are already really absolutely just astounding at what they did. So just the value of being in that space and the energy of being in that space was so elevating. And I could really feel the crackles of just, like, everybody's brains working and everybody, like, vibing off of each other and supporting each other. Yeah.
So good.
It was amazing.
Oh my God. I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say to everyone who is thinking about Magnetize and Monetize Mastermind, I want to invite you to apply. It's the best, it's the last mastermind that you will ever need. You will get everything that you need in terms of marketing, mindset, upgrades, elevating your confidence in your offer, in your price, having a sustainable, like, literally, it's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful container that you can trust yourself if you're feeling the nudge. Really trust yourself that there's a voice in you that is guiding you. If there's a desire there, trust it. And if you're like, I don't even know if I'm the right fit, just go and apply. And I will be very honest with you, and I'll tell you, hey, I think that you're a perfect fit. I'm all in. You're going to crush it. Because I want you to be a testimonial and do an interview like this. Or, hey, I think that this is not the right time, and I'll be so honest. And really, I tell people it's not the right time often. And so just know that you have my full transparent answer, and that you're going to get exactly what you came for. So go and apply. The link is above here, wherever you're seeing this video. And Lauren, anything else that you want to share with all of the people who are like, oh my God, what is happening? How did you do all of this? Holy shit. Anything else you want to share with the people?
Just that my story is confirmation that if you put yourself first, that magical shit will happen. Because I didn't have the money to join this mastermind. Like, it wasn't, like, I didn't have it. Like, I was like, okay, I think I can create this for myself, but I didn't have it. Like, if I'm being perfectly honest, but I created it for myself and then some after a very short amount of time in this mastermind by applying the lessons in the modules alone, much less the coaching. So don't let that scare you.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that.
That would be my biggest piece of advice, just coming from my own personal experience. So
I love that. That's the perfect mic drop moment to complete. Where can people find you in case they want to work with you?
Well, so I have my Facebook page, Empowered Singing for Empowered Living, and they can, drop me a DM, and I'd be more than happy to set up sales calls. I think that would be fabulous. Let's make it happen.
Yes, so good. All right, my loves. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Lauren, for being an example of what's possible. I love your story. I'm obsessed, celebrating you always. You're such a badass. I'm just so inspired by you. So thank you for being here, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another episode. If you're watching this in the replay, go and watch the next video. Bye, love.
Thank you, Juliana. Bye-bye.
Bye.